At least 15 people are now confirmed dead, dozens more injured following an accident involving a freight train and a passenger train in India's West Bengal state. Local reports say the driver of the cargo train is among the dead, as well as a guard from the passenger train. At the scene, where a damaged carriage landed on top of the passenger train, the Federal Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw promised that the injured will be given good treatment and compensation paid to the families of the victims. An investigation is now underway to determine the cause of the collision, which authorities say may be due to human error. Meanwhile, at least 11 people have died, more than 60 others still missing as a result of two shipwrecks off the coast of southern Italy. German charity wreck ships said it picked up 51 people from a sinking wooden boat and found 10 bodies trapped in the lower deck near the island of Lampedusa. However, medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières said in a separate incident on the same day, more than 60 people were reportedly missing, 26 of them feared to be children. According to the UN Refugee Agency, the UNHCR, the International Organization for Migration, and UNICEF, the boats were carrying migrants who had set off from Libya and Turkey, carrying migrants from Syria, Egypt, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Thousands of undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens could heave a sigh of relief as they may no longer be facing deportation. It's all thanks to President Joe Biden, who's set to announce a new policy that will prevent that from happening. According to administrative officials, the deportation policy will apply to individuals who've been in the United States for at least 10 years and will allow them to work in the country legally. This marks a significant respite for undocumented migrants already in the U.S. since the Obama administration announced the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, in 2012. The White House believes more than 50 or 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens will benefit in the program, in addition to 50,000 young people under the age of 21 whose parents are married to an American citizen. It comes as President Biden vowed earlier this month to make the U.S. immigration system more fair and more just. Polls also show that immigration is a primary concern for many voters ahead of the November presidential election. Staying in the United States, the White House has accused those it calls right-wing critics of selectively editing videos in a misinformation campaign to question President Joe Biden's mental state. In the most recent incident, there are claims Mr. Biden experienced a moment of confusion that required former President Barack Obama to lead him off stage at a weekend fundraiser. The White House shared other footage that they say shows Mr. Biden was just pausing to take in the applause. The mental acuity of both the 81-year-old president and his 78-year-old challenger, Donald Trump, have come under scrutiny as the White House race heats up. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre attributed the videos to the Republican Party's desperation.
Who are telling pollsters.
President Obama's office put out a statement, so I would refer you to that statement about what was being accused in those by others, and he said this did not happen in the sense of what people were saying they were seeing, right, or what was being falsely reported that they were seeing. Let's not forget, President Obama, President Biden have a relationship. They are friends. They're like family to each other. And I think that's what you saw. That was definitely a cheap fake. It was. This was widely fact-checked. That video was widely fact-checked, including by conservative media, on what happened, what occurred. The president walked over to give a thumbs up to divers who had just landed right in front of him. And if you run that tape a little bit longer, you would see what was happening, what the president was actually doing, and it is a cheap fake. In recent weeks, there have been cheap fakes videos that have been fact-checked. They've been fact-checked by conservative media as well, to say that these videos are false. They're purposefully being altered.
So
look, the president has done more in his 3.5 years as president than most modern day president. And what he's been able to deliver, he's able to do that because he knows what he's doing.
Our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Maria Bird, joins us now via Skype audio. Maria, it's really hard to believe what Karine Jean-Pierre says, that, those videos, those clips were doctored. The so-called bad faith viral clips of President Joe Biden, there are a lot of them on social media. There are lots of them online. The president appears disoriented. He's at a loss where he is, what's going on. How are his handlers explaining those occurrences apart from, the fundraiser event where, according to Karine Jean-Pierre, if you go further on in the video, he was pausing for an applause?
Well, as you heard the press secretary provide insight into exactly what was happening, we know this is not the first time. Obviously, this might have been more of the apparent time that many believe that he looked disoriented. But this is not the first time that people have claimed that the president is dealing with some health challenges and is disoriented, and sometimes might seem as if where he knows where he is. And so I think there are a couple factors to this. We've obviously been watching Mitch McConnell, what he's gone through. We're obviously dealing with a re-election with some of the oldest candidates we've ever seen in the country run for office. And so this is really obviously a time where people are going to be paying attention to every piece of that the president is going through. So I think what we're really running up against at this time is re-election. The president has been called on around his health for most of his cycle of this presidency. And so, when you look at that picture, it just does not. But as we know, social media and the various clips can tell you a story based off of how they're cut together. So I think that's really what the White House is trying to come across. But there has been no formal notification from a doctor or from anyone in the medical field to state that he was actually disoriented during that period.
And is that on purpose, Maria? The fact that no one in the medical field has vouched for the president's good health amidst all of these accusations, amidst, all of the speculation about his health, about, how fit he is, about his acuity. Is it on purpose that there is no confirmation that the president is okay to continue as president of the United States?
Well, the president of the U.S. is required to have, obviously he has a physician that does regular checks, and there have been some physical assessments done over him over the last year, especially within the last few months as he's prepared for this next election cycle, and the doctor has come out and has not noted anything specifically that would put a red flag for him being able to run for re-election. So I think that's really where the White House is relying on, and the Democratic Party at this time is relying on the White House physician to be able to provide any sort of insight if there was something to be concerned about as it relates to his health.
Now, there are some conspiracy reports the Democrats are working on choosing another candidate for the polls. President Biden is 81 years old, and by the time he becomes, but if he wins in November, he becomes 82 at that point. Another 4 years would be tasky for anyone at that age. Is this something Americans worry about, not just for the elections, but even after?
Well, I think that one thing that's not being discussed that many people are starting to pay attention to is the Gen Zers and younger. So those individuals who are in their early 20s, late 20s, those who are very much active, socially active, who have a very different viewpoint as to the direction of the country and some of the issues that they have brought forth, which could be very different than millennials and especially very different than baby boomers. And so I think that's really the question, because there's a very large percentage of college students. We've seen what happened as it relates to the protests that ran rampant right around the May ending of the college school year. And so we know that that group is not satisfied with the direction of the country. And so that, I think, is where we're hearing conspiracy theories around, is there someone else? It's that group that could be bubbling up. They have a very activist mindset and mentality, but we also are in a new age of activism as it relates to social media and the way in which they are socially mobilizing themselves. As we can see, they were able to socially mobilize very quickly in the anti-war protest that broke out a few months ago.
Maria, let's talk about the immigration document and the changes that President Joe Biden has made. Help us understand what this means for undocumented spouses. Can they now stay in the United States?
Yes, we're talking about close to 500,000 individuals who are spouses of someone for more than 10 years or more. There's a few other requirements as well that they have to abide by that will be able to eventually move toward a green card. And so Homeland Security is obviously working with this measures to ensure that individuals have the appropriate paperwork, are able to understand their eligibility, and to understand what will allow them to work toward full citizenship in the U.S. It's going to be very similar. This is one of the largest programs since we saw the Dreamers Act, which were children that were undocumented in the U.S. And so this will be very similar in that measure, but there will be obviously assigned programs within Homeland Security to assist with this.
Yeah, and then how can undocumented spouses take advantage of this concession?
Yes, they will be able to take advantage through, there will be likely, and I have not looked to see, but I know they're planning on releasing a website where they can just go directly to the site. They'll be able to log directly in there and be able to begin the process. So most of it will be electronic. There will also be obviously measures for individuals that want to go to the local offices around being able to look toward temporary citizenship and then obviously moving into potentially full-time membership of being able to get their green card and become U.S. citizens.
Thanks again, Maria. Now we're still just a few weeks away from presidential and general elections in Rwanda in July. 3 presidential candidates will be contesting for the country's most important job, while over 500 aspiring MPs during the general elections. The Rwanda National Electoral Commission has unveiled the names of the candidates in the presidential and parliamentary polls. Paul Kagame, the country's current president, has been in office for 23 years. He's been at the head of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. Also, since 1998, he'll be facing Frank Habineza of the opposition Democratic Green Party of Rwanda and Philippe Mpamiyana, who is running as an independent. In total, 9 candidates submitted their candidacy to the National Electoral Commission. Mr. Habineza ran during the last presidential poll. He garnered less than 2% of votes. Kagame won previous elections in 2003, 2010 and 2017 with more than 90% of the vote. Critics and rights groups accuse him of ruling in a climate of fear that stifles dissent and free speech. In the meantime, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has left for Pretoria, South Africa, where he'll be attending the inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa's second term in office on Wednesday. A statement from the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, says President Tinubu will return to Nigeria after the ceremony. The inauguration of President Ramaphosa follows his re-election as president for a second term. He was re-elected on Friday after the African National Congress cobbled together an unprecedented coalition government. We're back in South Africa, where the country's Revenue Service has announced the commencement of tax season 2024, signaling a proactive stance towards tax compliance, utilizing advanced technologies such as machine learning and artificial intelligence. The Revenue Service says it aims to simplify tax filing processes while bolstering enforcement against tax evasion, including targeting crypto traders and assets for taxation. Tusani Myandu from Mazars Tax Practitioners says there's a need for coordination and collaboration between SARS and tax practitioners in order to enforce compliance.
I think it's about building trust. I must first start by saying that there are tax practitioners that are not doing well. They are not providing the correct services to their clients. So SARS needs to deal with those. The recognized professional bodies need to deal with those. But by and large, the partnership and the contribution that tax practitioners are having is huge to ensure that most of taxpayers are compliant. I mean, if you can quantify that, how much of work that tax practitioners are doing, then you will realize that there's a lot of contribution. Now, if SARS frustrates tax practitioners and they're not able to operate and work, then it becomes a problem, because right now you can't, as a tax practitioner, get an appointment at SARS. They say they don't want to have walk-in appointments for tax practitioners. So I think if we can fix that relationship, then you go a long way towards having compliance, because the reality is not everyone has got the skills or the know-how for them to be tax compliant. Therefore, you need professionals to assist them.
The UN High Commission for Human Rights is calling for concrete measures to halt the human rights violations and abuses that continue to endanger reconciliation and peace in Ethiopia. Spokesperson Liz Throssell says the High Commissioner, Volker Turk, is urging the parties to the conflict to halt ongoing hostilities and resolve difference through peaceful means. The UN Human Rights Office issued an update analyzing the human rights situation across Ethiopia from January 2023 to 2024. In 2023, at least 1,351 civilians were killed in Ethiopia in attacks reportedly carried out by government forces, Eritrean troops, anti-government militia, and some unknown actors. Of the civilians killed, 740 were in Amhara.
The High Commissioner urges the parties to the conflict to halt ongoing hostilities and to resolve difference through peaceful means. It's essential that the authorities take all feasible steps to protect civilians, prevent further violations, and ensure there are full investigations to bring those responsible to justice. Now, some of the points in this update include violent conflicts, particularly in the Amhara and Oromia regions, led to serious human rights violations and abuses in 2023. In the northern Tigray region, there was a significant improvement in the human rights situation following the cessation of hostilities agreement in November 2022. But concerns persist regarding ongoing violations by members of the Eritrean Defence Forces. The use of unmanned aerial vehicles by government forces resulted in 248 civilian deaths between the 4th of August and the 31st of December 2023 and destroyed vital infrastructure, including schools and hospitals, raising concerns about the extent of compliance of these strikes with international law. Now, we are urging the authorities to release immediately those detained under the former state of emergency if they've not been charged under currently valid law and tried promptly and fairly. And of course, those who have not been charged should also be released immediately. The situation in Amhara and Oromia regions remains worrying, with ongoing fighting between government forces against Amhara militia and Fano and the Oromo Liberation Army, respectively.
Authorities in Somalia are intensifying efforts at making the principles of human rights better known and understood among communities. It's received a boost with a multilingual initiative centered on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, supported by the United Nations Assistance Mission for Somalia in collaboration with the National Museum of Somalia. The initiative is simple yet innovative. The UDHR, translated into more languages spoken in Somalia, as to reach as many people as possible.
This is a culmination of a long project of working with different communities in Somalia, showing the rich diversity of the cultural heritage here. And language is one of the issues most closest to your identity, and an important method or means of expressing who you are, your history, making meaning of the past in the present. And I think it's a wonderful recognition with the Somalia National Museum doing this with the communities, and it's just the start of something larger. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is universal. It's for everybody. So the more inclusive we can be in ensuring that it's in different languages, the more inclusive it will be in terms of people understanding that these are their human rights and that they can claim them.
Eid celebrations still ongoing in the United Arab Emirates. Crowds gather to capture this. A dazzling display of fireworks illuminating the Abu Dhabi sky. This was a Monday evening. The country marked Eid al-Adha with a wide range of breathtaking fireworks in multiple locations. Now, according to media reports, these similar displays will be held for 3 days across different areas. The Emirate of Abu Dhabi has been organizing spectacular fireworks showing Islamic to celebrate the Islamic holidays, New Year's holidays, as well as other public holidays like the national holiday. And how cool are you? Whatever the answer is, you cannot be cooler than Twiggy. Who is Twiggy? And what's all the hype about him or her? I'm not sure which one he or she is. Twiggy is just a squirrel who's turning heads with her water skiing moves in North Carolina in the United States. You can see her. There she goes. The spotlight isn't just only on Twiggy, but also Twiggy's friends, whom we see there. Also, wowing us and really interesting. They came out and she performed her world-famous routine at the 9th edition of the Pest Fest Festival. According to co-host of the event, training a squirrel is similar to training a dog, with the same words, commands, positive reinforcement. However, the most important thing here is earning squirrels, or rather Twiggy's, love and trust.
Twiggy was in Anchorman, Dodgeball, Delta 60! Straighten it out! There she goes!
So welcome to Pet Fest at Sand Hills. This is our 9th annual Pet Fest. All dogs, all pets are welcome. For the second year in a row, we have Twiggy the water skiing squirrel as our main event. We have fabulous showgirls across the way. This is a great place for you if you are missing an animal in your life. We have adoptions too.
Oh yeah, Twiggy the water skiing squirrel started back with my parents 45 years ago in 1978. It all started as a joke. My dad bought a remote control boat for my sister, and he was playing with the boat when a friend of his came over to him and says, "Chuck, you didn't buy that boat for your daughter, you bought it for yourself." And my dad just joked back and it's like, "No, I'm learning to drive the boat to teach my pet squirrel how to water ski." Put it in the newspaper and it kind of went viral overnight. And here we are 45 years later. They have their own personality, so every squirrel ski is different. So I think that's really unique. And everyone has like an infatuation with squirrels in general. Like everyone just loves squirrels. And to be able to come and meet Twiggy and interact with her and see her water ski and see a squirrel in the wild that they always want to be able to see.
So training a squirrel, it's a lot like training a dog. So the first thing, obviously with every animal, is earning their love and trust. After that, they are super smart animals just like a dog, so you use same words, commands, positive reinforcement, give them a treat at the end. And yeah, he is spoiled with love and affection at home. She has the run of the house, so everything is chewed up. But yeah, she is a tame squirrel, so at most of these shows you can pet Twiggy and hold her, and I think that is like a dream come true.
Well, what do you know? Twiggy is a celebrity. And that's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.